Yao Ming is the first Chinese player to have a major impact in the NBA and the first Chinese athlete to become an international superstar. Standing at 7'5", he was drafted number 1 overall in the 2002 NBA draft by the Houston Rockets. He was voted in as an all-star in only his rookie year, receiving more votes than even Shaquille O'Neal, who was in the peak of his prime. The media was so happy at his arrival that they called it the beginning of the Ming dynasty, and some even regarded him as a savior for the NBA since he was opening up new markets in Asia and giving the NBA a boost at the time when interest was slightly lowering in the United States. Yao was selected to the NBA All-Star team 8 times. He averaged 19 points and 9 rebounds for his NBA career, but more importantly, his impact expanded the NBA's influence in Asia into lucrative merchandise sales and TV ratings that skyrocketed anytime the Rockets were playing. Yao had played 6 years with the Chinese national team before joining the Rockets and was already a star in his home country. He carried the Olympic torch and his country's flag during the opening ceremonies at the Beijing Olympics in 2008. Yao was China's first global superstar with a personal brand valued at more than $1 billion. And even after his retirement, he remains as one of the most popular figures in China. But what if I told you that all of it might have never happened? So Yao had essentially been bred by the government. Both of his parents played basketball. His mother Fang was 6'2" and might have been the tallest woman in China. She had served as a Red Guard during the height of the Cultural Revolution. Yao's grandfather, one of Shanghai's tallest men, was discovered too late by sports officials, but his son, the 6'9" Yao, soon found himself dragged into the sports system. So in the end, Fang and Yao's father were pressured into marrying each other by the government. They both participated in the glorious plan of the government to use her and her husband to produce a super baby to boost national pride through sports. The Shanghai authorities who encouraged them getting together had gone back several generations to ensure that size was embedded in the bloodline. I honestly can't believe that Chinese sports officials went down generations of both of Yao's parents. Like, honestly, this sounds super crazy. But all of that research on his parents paid off, as the result was Yao Ming, a baby behemoth who just kept on getting bigger. At birth, Yao weighed in at 10 pounds, which is absolutely absurd for a baby. Everyone knew instantly that Yao was going to become a giant. So Yao's father played for the Shanghai City basketball team. His mother was captain of the Chinese national women's team. But even though they both had basketball in their bloods, they weren't hoping for their son Yao Ming to become a professional basketball player. They actually would rather him go to college, since they only played basketball because of their heights and were essentially forced into it by the government. As years passed, Yao unfortunately lost 60% of his hearing in his left ear at age 7 when doctors gave him the wrong medicine for a kidney problem. I don't even want to get into that negligence, but the giant infant, who at the time was only 8 years old, reached the average Chinese male's height of 5'7". He was then recruited for basketball and, just like his parents, initially hated it. The 8-year-old Yao began training. His coaches offered little encouragement or variety. It wasn't until he was 9 years old and attended a Harlem Globetrotters game with his mother that he saw basketball players actually enjoying themselves. Like, honestly, that's just sad. He hated basketball that much that he had to see the damn Harlem Globetrotters to see anyone even having fun with the sport. It really makes you think, just how hard were these coaches pushing these kids that were the result of the system? Yao's first coach said this: he didn't like basketball very much in the beginning. He was so much taller than the other kids and was an awkward mover. It took time to cultivate his interest by playing the games and making him feel the fun of basketball. And to make sure that Yao didn't skip practice, his coach would go to his house and personally took him to practice every day. That's just some serious dedication. By the time he was 12, Yao was sent away from his family to a full-time sports academy. Even when his parents resisted at first to put him in the same system that had caused them some suffering and bitterness, there was unfortunately at the time not a lot of choice for them. And at the age of 12, he was already 6'5". Sports officials predicted that he would grow to 7'5" by measuring his knuckles. And after realizing this, they knew if anyone had the chance to become the ultimate Chinese player that the government was so looking for, it was Yao. So special attention was given to groom him to be a future star. He was literally nearly watched 24 hours a day and served meals in the special kitchen that was apparently, as they said, reserved for champions, which does raise the suspicion of possible hormone treatment, since at the time China was suffering a series of doping scandals. In Yao's case, there isn't any proof, but in that period of time in the 1990s, they were using all kinds of experiments to enhance players' stamina and strength. Yao joined the Shanghai Sharks when he was 13. By 14, he was training 10 hours a day. The training was tough. The Sharks coach put him and other players through 4 practices a day, the first at 6:30 a.m. and the last ending at 8:30 p.m. Yao Ming played center with the Shanghai Sharks, and in his last season in China, he averaged 32 points, 19 rebounds, and 5 blocks per game. The Sharks won 23 of 24 games, including the China Basketball Association's championship. While playing for Shanghai, Yao was paid $70,000 per year. He lived in a dormitory with his teammates. Once playing for the national team, Yao made all 21 shots he attempted. But in his first match against top-ranked NBA players at the 2000 Olympics, he didn't do so well. He fouled out and scored only 5 points and had 3 rebounds after only 16 minutes of play. For a while when he was in China, Yao even refused to dunk the ball because he considered it an ungentlemanly thing to do. He doesn't like to draw attention to his height, so whenever he enters a room, the first thing he does is sit down even if no chairs are present. So it was now 1999, and Yao was pressured to enter the NBA draft by Sharks deputy general manager Lee. Lee also introduced Yao to an Ohio-based agency known as Evergreen Sports, who sent a representative with a contract for Yao to sign. The contract specified that Evergreen Sports would take care of Yao's housing, dining, cars, computers. In return, they would be entitled to 33% of Yao's entire income. The maximum that agents or agencies are legally allowed to take from players is only 4%. So Lee asked Yao, "What did you think of the contract?" Yao shook his head and told Lee that he didn't want to sign it. Lee replied with, "It's a great opportunity for you. You'll be selected in the first round." And Lee pushed hard for Yao to sign the contract. He later brought the entire Yao family to a hotel to meet with the representative. Their discussion lasted until 3 a.m., at which point it became clear to the Yao family that they wouldn't let them leave without signing the contract. When leaving the hotel after signing it, Yao's mother said, "I think we just sold ourselves back there." So yes, in 1999, Yao signed a contract that would have put him in the NBA right then and there, but it would have cost him 33% of all his earnings, and he wasn't happy about that. Yao was worried about his career and future in China. He felt immense pressure from not just Lee, but what group that might be standing behind him. It wasn't until much later did he become aware of the fact that Lee was acting on his own, whose wishes have no bearing on that of the Sharks ownership group. The National Basketball Players Association later determined that the contract was invalid and that Yao had the right to terminate it, and terminate he did. These people were clearly just trying to use Yao, and he was having none of it. And because of this one event, Yao stayed in China for another 3 years, which does raise what ifs if Yao had gone in the NBA in 1999 about how his career would change. But in the end, after 3 more years with the Shanghai Sharks, he was only allowed to enter the NBA draft after he made a vow of loyalty to Beijing and promised to give a hefty chunk of his salary to the government. According to NBA rules, the team who drafted Yao could only pay his CBA team a transfer fee of $350,000. Yao's team and the governments wanted a lot more than that. And I mean a lot more. The CBA, the central government, and the Shanghai government demanded 50% of Yao's NBA earnings and endorsement money for the duration of his entire career. Yes, 50 damn percent. Yao was supposed to split the remaining 50% with his team, his coaches, and his agents. In addition to not only all that money, the Sharks wanted the Rockets to provide coaches and players to make their team the most dominant team in China. They also wanted the right to recall Yao at any time for any reason. With all of these demands everyone was making, getting Yao to the NBA seemed impossible, and there was no way the NBA or even Yao himself would agree to any of these terms. And if Yao and the NBA didn't, he would have basically been banned from entering the NBA. And Lee once again came back to explain why they were demanding so much. He said, in the US, parents spend money to train athletes. In China, the state pays for everything. We feed him, we dress him, and we house him. And then he gave the analogy of, when a child grows up, he must take care of his mother. So yes, he's referring to all the people that took him away as a kid, forced him into playing basketball when at the time he didn't like it, and did it all for their personal gain as his mother. Never mind. Honestly, that sounds just like a mom. So in the end, the NBA negotiated with them and finally came to reasonable terms that everyone could agree with. Yao finally received approval from the Chinese Sports Federation to enter the 2002 NBA draft, but only after confirming the Rockets would take him #1 overall. And the NBA promised that Yao would fulfill his commitments with the Chinese national team and pay the CBA 5 to 8% of his NBA salary for his entire career. And not only that, the Shanghai Sharks were promised a buyout worth between $8 million and $15 million, depending on the length of his career. Yao was the NBA's top draft pick in 2002. He was drafted at the age of 21, only hours after receiving clearance from the Chinese Basketball Association, and it was the first time a foreign player who didn't play college ball in the United States was drafted #1 overall. Upon hearing the news of his selection, Yao said, "This is a new start in basketball and life career." Anyways guys, that's the video for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and as always, I'm Handles. Until next time.